Sony's PlayStation TV is coming to Australia, but what exactly is it?
Wearable or smartwatch? Which tech should you be wearing this summer? Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines in search of the big picture. I'm Alex Kidman, joined as always by a man who made millions in software and then lost it all at the track, Adam Turner. Adam, what's new in tech?
The Nine Network and Fairfax have rebranded their Streamco subscription video service. The new service, expected to launch next year, has been dubbed Stan. It will cost about $9.99 per month and is a rival to Netflix.
Microsoft's laid down the gauntlet in the online storage space, announcing that all Office 365 subscribers will shortly get unlimited cloud storage through its OneDrive service. It's an interesting deal because at the asking price, it's either a free Office suite with your storage or free storage with your Office suite. A good deal either way.
4GX is the official name of Telstra's new 700 MHz mobile broadband network, which will launch in January and is designed to offer extra capacity as well as improve indoor and regional coverage. There are several test sites already live offering improved coverage to a handful of handsets, including Samsung's Galaxy S5 and the iPhone 6.
Smartphones continue the quest to become razor-thin slices, with Oppo announcing the R5, a smartphone that measures in at only 4.85mm thin with a hand-polished aluminium frame. There's no word as yet on how easily this one bends, however.
So Alex, does talk of Stan get you excited?
Look, I barely know the fella. But realistically, Stan's interesting, it's competitive, I guess. It possibly points to a bit of a fracture in the market because they're talking about having exclusives, I think, on Breaking Bad and its follow-up series. And that raises the spectre that maybe you might need to end up subscribing to like 4, 5, 6 different subscription services, because at the same time Netflix has taken on a marketing agency reportedly, which further kind of pushes the idea that they're going to launch here shortly. It could be great, but it could be really, really messy too.
Yeah, and it's sort of replicating what we're seeing in the US as well, where the different networks are going on their own with their streaming services. A few of them are in Hulu, a few are outside Hulu doing their own thing.
It's that problem.
And as you say, once you pay $5 to this service, $10 to that service, it starts to get expensive. And in Australia, we had this dream via Freeview of this all-encompassing service that would give us everything we wanted. Freeview Plus is giving us little bits and pieces, but it doesn't look like there's going to be a one-stop shop where I can say to someone, shut up and take my $10 or $15 a month and give me everything I want.
Yeah. Now, on the Microsoft news, would unlimited cloud storage get you to pony up for Office 365?
I don't think that the cloud storage should really be that much of an influence. I think you should look at more whether you want the service and consider the cloud storage to be the freebie bit. You should decide whether Office 365 or Google Docs or Apple's word processor, whatever the hell they're called, whether that is the best tool for your job and how that fits into everything else, because somewhere along the line someone's going to give you a shitload of online storage.
But the pricing doesn't quite work that way, because it's about $10 a month for Office 365. Yeah. A terabyte virtually everywhere except Apple, because they still view their terabytes as being premium in the cloud. Yeah. A terabyte virtually everywhere else is about $10. It is actually that bit more of a punch to services like Dropbox, even to Google, because
Dropbox
it's this
is a real
unlimited
frustration.
thing.
I'd like to see better pricing from Dropbox.
Yeah.
Mostly because I just lost most of my bonus data and I'm back down to 2 gig or something ridiculously low like that. So I'm really waiting for a better deal from Dropbox.
So Adam, PlayStation TV, what is it and why should I care?
Well, it's basically a handheld Vita, but not so handheld. They've taken the guts of a Vita and that's official technical term.
That's a PlayStation Vita, not a Vita, right?
Yes. Oh, that's a whole different thing again. They're basically taking the guts of a PlayStation Vita handheld games console and put it in a little set-top box, basically big enough to fit in the palm of your hand. This thing will connect to your home network, and it has a HDMI port on the back of it for connecting to your television. Now, the first thing is it does not have TV tuners in it, which is going to disappoint some people, because if you had a PlayStation 3, you might have had the Play TV to use it as a TV tuner, and a lot of people have been wondering whether or not they're going to introduce that for the PlayStation 4. I asked Sony straight out about this when I was in Japan, and they said no, they don't want to do it, which kind of is a big differentiator then between what the PlayStation will do and what the Xbox will do with live TV. What the PlayStation TV is basically a gateway to the rest of the Sony ecosystem. So the four main things it will do is it's got a cartridge slot on the side, so you can take your Vita games and put them in this and play them on your television. You can stream games to it from the PlayStation 4 as if it was a Vita handheld TV. So you might be playing a game in the lounge room, someone else wants the TV, so you transfer that game across. The other thing it will do is it'll get in the Sony cloud services, so your PlayStation 1 and 2 games and your PSP games and all those stuff that you get through the PlayStation Store, plus your movies and your videos. One more trick, but this is the trick that we won't get in Australia yet, is it taps into the PlayStation Now, which is Sony's cloud streaming service for, I think, PlayStation 3 games, which is not going to be available into Australia till at least next year. So when you put all that together, it's kind of, it does a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it kind of depends on which Sony stuff you already own and which services you're interested in as to whether there's actually room for a PlayStation TV in your lounge room.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me that if you're an existing PlayStation 4 owner especially, there's an awful lot of what this does that you've already got. And in fact, probably already got plugged into your TV.
It's almost like an extender box for the PlayStation 4 in that way. You might want to do some of this stuff in the other room. You might want to, this might be for the bedroom. You might want to watch movies. You might want to occasionally play games, all that kind of stuff. But you can't justify buying a second PlayStation 4 to put in the bedroom when you've already got one in the lounge room. That's maybe where it kind of makes sense. Or you've got a Vita and you want to play against it from the television. But if you didn't have any of this stuff already, you'd probably be better off with starting with a PlayStation 4 or with a Vita rather than starting with a PlayStation TV. Even an old PS1 and a couple of discs would be a cheaper starting point than this. So it's kind
if you could find a PS1 with the drive still working there, right?
Yes, well, that's
notoriously unreliable.
You would have to dig around a bit, but so it's kind of it's a piece of the puzzle, and you have to look at the other puzzle pieces that you own and decide whether or not it's a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, it's been out in other markets for quite some time now, actually. Yeah. And I mean, purely anecdotally speaking, when I was in Tokyo a month or so back, the only place I saw PlayStation TV units, oddly enough, was in second-hand stores. So I'm not entirely sold on the appeal. It's perhaps a wait-and-see prospect, especially depending on how well the PS3 game streaming actually works when it hits Australia, given our broadband.
So, Alex, wearable versus smartwatches. What grabs your fancy here?
Well, look, I hate to have to say it, but I kind of like a little bit of both. And the issue right at the moment is that both encompasses a heck of a lot of devices. You've got a lot of new upcoming things. Jawbone's just announced its latest high-end band, the Up 3, which is just packed with little biometric sensors that do heart rate, that'll measure your REM sleep, that will almost be a health accessory, although they're very, very shy about calling it a medical-grade health accessory because that opens up to all sorts of liability. Meanwhile, Microsoft's announced
they could add a rectal thermometer and call it the Up Yours.
I'm sure they've considered it. They're Swedish. Then Microsoft's got the Microsoft Band coming down the pipeline. We won't see that here for a little while either. Yeah. Magellan's just announced and launched in Australia the Magellan Echo Fit Watch. I've actually got one of those on. Love myself a big prop.
The man loves his big props.
Apple's got the Apple Watch. You've got tons and tons of choices, and they're all kind of pitching around the same area, although not all of them do all the same stuff. Now, as you know, I'm kind of keen on this as an area. So, I mean, right now, I'm wearing an Up 24, I'm wearing the Magellan watch. You're wearing neither of them, and I know you're not as keen. So I'm kind of curious, what is it in a wearable that it would need to attract you? Because you're obviously an uncommitted buyer, whereas I'm someone who's kind of keen on this whole field.
Well, I played around with a Fitbit. I spent a bit of time with a Fitbit, and I decided that it would work really well for some people. If it's the thing that motivates you to get off the couch, then it's perhaps a good purchase. But if it's all it's going to do is tell you how many steps you've taken and you don't need to know that you didn't take many steps today, then it's probably not a big thing. I think for me, wearables is more about a second screen for your phone and notifications than it is about health. I'd have the health stuff thrown in.
So you'd be more of a smartwatch buyer then, I guess.
I think so. But I'm not. I still think it's also probably a bit early to jump in on smartwatches as well. I like to see what the next generation does. But I also think that the whole thing might be a little bit of overkill and needs to be simplified a bit. The interesting thing about this is there's several different parties merging on the same point here. You're coming at this problem from the fitness band, from your Fitbit crew, market share are coming into it. From another side, you've got your smartwatch sort of smartphone people coming into it. From another side, again, you've got your GPS Magellan kind of people coming into it. So they're all approaching this from a different angle, and it will be interesting to see which of them strikes the right balance and whether there is one right balance, or whether, like I said, it comes down to whether you're more of a fitness person or a smartphone person, or what it is you want from these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and I don't know that there is a full-on one-size-fits-all solution for everyone anyway.
I don't think there is. Yeah.
In the smartwatch space, the bugbear, the thing that has absolutely killed most smartwatches for me is battery life.
Yeah.
And there's really only a few that actually deal with that problem more beyond our smartwatch lasts for a day and then you must charge it overnight. At which point, for example, you lose sleep tracking, but obviously also if you forget to charge it, then the next day it goes flat on you. It just absolutely always does. The Pebble's really good for this, and I'm very keen on the Pebble because it lasts, and it is that kind of simplified device you're talking about. It does a few things well, it doesn't do everything. Apple, on the other hand, are promising just about everything in an app sense with the Apple Watch, but they're notably reticent about really talking about battery life at this point. Even in the mid-ground, the Magellan that I'm wearing apparently will last me 6 months on my wrist because it runs off a standard watch battery, but it's a really limited device. It relies a lot on a smartphone paired to it to make an awful lot of sense. And you're right, it's an emerging market. I mean, the danger with technology, of course, is there's always something better down the track.
Yeah. I don't want to buy a new smartwatch every 24 months the way I get a new smartphone every 24 months. And that's one of the reasons why I'm holding out a bit. And I'm thinking that they're hoping that we'll do that, the same way as they were hoping we'd do that with tablets. And they're now starting to find that people will sit on their tablets for 3 or 4 years, maybe instead of 1 or 2.
People, so don't sit on your tablet, it will break.
Yeah, so we don't
listen to Adam, he's right.
It will definitely bend, I can assure you. But yeah, they want us to keep turning these things around. I'm not going to go out and buy the Apple Watch 2, the Apple Watch 3, the Apple Watch 4. A watch is traditionally a purchase that's 10 years or a lifetime. It's not the kind of thing, it's not a consumable throwaway thing, and that's one of the biggest challenges they have to face.
I wonder, I don't know, I don't have any data on this, but I wonder if that's entirely true for what are, after all, digital watches. I know what you mean. You go out, you buy a really nice analog watch, yeah, that's a lifetime, that's
you keep it for a long
hand
time.
It down to your children, possibly give it to Christopher Walken in a POW camp kind of deal.
Yes, exactly.
But a digital watch, is that the same story? Do people have that same expectation?
But you don't buy a digital. You buy a digital watch to tell you the time, right? Maybe tell you the date or whatever.
That's why it's called a watch.
In a year or two and go, you know what? This just isn't telling me the time right anymore. I need a pink one or a blue one or whatever. You buy one and you keep it until for some reason it breaks or you lose it or whatever. You don't replace something like that just because someone else has got a slightly better one. But they're trying to introduce that mentality with watches. But I think they're kind of starting from a clean slate in a way. And there are a lot of people now who just don't wear wristwatches anymore. I haven't worn one for 6 or 7 years because mine broke. I didn't wear... Actually, no, sorry. I broke. I got another one. I lost it for a while. And then I started carrying around a smartphone. So they're not necessarily trying to win over people who've traditionally had a wristwatch for a long time. They're trying to win over people who've perhaps never really even worn a wristwatch, but then convince them that this thing is something you want to replace every year or two. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out for them.
See, I'm slightly OCD on wearing a watch. I feel very odd if I go out of the house without a watch on. And that's totally a personal thing. The thing I find interesting in this space as well is that these are devices we are meant to wear 24/7. And that works for a reasonable quantity of bands. Not every band. I've certainly worn more than my fair share of fitness trackers where I've thought, wow, after a while, this is really pretty uncomfortable. But for the vast majority of decent quality bands, because there's some real duds out there, for the vast majority of those, they're fine to wear pretty much 24/7. I'm not someone who wears one in the shower, and I'm not someone who'll wear one while I'm doing the dishes. But beyond that, they're pretty much good. A watch, no. I as I say, I'm OCD enough to want to wear a watch when I go out of the house, but when I'm actually going to sleep, I'd find a watch really, really uncomfortable. Well, that's just about it for another episode of Vertical Hold. We'd love to get your feedback on anything we've discussed, good or bad. And if you've enjoyed this episode, then hit subscribe.
And we'll see you next time.